we have to reallocate the resources, and we have to ensure that the tenants will proactively clear the data once they have used a particular VM. Otherwise, it might end up in remnants risk, where you have to ensure and you have to clear the allocated resources for the next task. Next is inter VM network traffic. So this is also challenging because you have to do the switching using the virtual switches, and also the OS based filtering based upon the type of the underlying hardware. Then you can go with the supported virtual machine. So for each of the virtual machine, we require VM tagging and labeling. So this will help you to utilize the hardware fragments which were underutilized. So by enhancing the VM's tagging and labeling, you can enhance the underutilized hardware fragments. Then coming to the virtual machine traffic, so in order to ensure that it has that standardization policy, in order to get through the virtualization machine traffic, what you can do is you can isolate VLANs from the virtual machine traffic, so that any extension is required in order to store data in a large cloud environment, it will be easy for you to monitor the virtual machine traffic. Then it has some formal security certification, so we have to ensure that all the proprietary softwares we are using has this formal security certifications, which might help in automated virtualization management. Next, coming to accelerating the cloud resources. So what we can do is, there are many things in order to accelerate the resources. First one is automated provisioning. So every time it is very, very difficult to check the virtual machine manually and then do the provisioning. Instead of that, what we can do is we can go with automated provisioning. So it depending upon the type of service, whether it is platform as service, infrastructure as service, or software as service, you can predict the amount of resources that are required, and based upon that you can enable the fast provisioning of a virtual machine irrespective of whatever is the underlying hypervisor. Then by accelerating automated provisioning, one more important thing is it enhances the 24/7 availability. So how it can do that? It can do this by multi-instance, multi-data center deployment. So your VM is not available in only one particular data center. Instead of that, it will be stored in multiple data centers and it will be deployed there. So it will be easier for you to ensure that your virtual machine is available throughout your executions of a particular protocol or services. Then coming to the stack components, so it includes the three important layers. First is your client layer or a client device. Then upon that you have the infrastructure layer, and at the end you have the applications or platform. So based upon that, what usually happens is your client will choose a particular application or a platform on which you want to deploy your files. So depending upon the infrastructure layers, what you can do is you can make a request. So based upon that, so your virtual machine will be allotted by utilizing the hypervisor. So depending upon the complexity of application, you can end up using many virtual machines. Then what security consideration should be there? So if you want to protect your master image, then probably you have to isolate it with other VMs. Then there could be a risk of compromisation. So whenever you want an improved version, so what possibly you have to do is you have to worry about the configuration management. Why configuration management is required? Because usually what happens, whenever we are storing data, we usually follow versioning. So for example, if I have a data in a particular version, so say after 6 months or 1 year, there can be changes that are added. So instead of removing the file entirely and then storing the newer version, so what you can do is basically you can go up with configuration management that you have studied in your software engineering course. So what you can do, only the updated changes can be made as patches, and then that could be easily managed. Then one more important thing is you have to recycle the user IDs and IP addresses that might results in the damaged access. Then deprovisioning is removing the processes which are not utilized for a uh, uh, time period. So what it do is it will reduce the security risk and integrity issues. So this is about, so whatever we had discussed initially. So any doubts? Okay, so we'll continue. So next, once we have understood about the virtual machine hypervisor working, so next is what is the cloud storage risk. So now we have already understood so how why we have to accelerate the cloud resources, why we have gone for automated provisioning. Next, coming to the cloud storage, it has some key risk and protection protocols that has to be followed in order to understand the possible vulnerabilities that are there, and only once we know this vulnerabilities we can try to safeguard the resources that are there, and we can efficiently manage our data. Right, one is centralized storage. So whenever your storage is centralized, you can have a high value target. It is easy to be protected whenever all data lies in one particular centralized storage with proper controls. Only the authenticated user will be able to access this centralized storage. Then multi-tenancy. So what you can do is, instead of having only one particular tenant accessing your resource, you can provision the multi-tenancy. So this risk can have the data failures, isolation, or rollbacking the data from customers. So this is one of the key risks that is there. Then complex hardware software system, if it is there, so if there is any catastrophic failure, so which is an important data that is getting affected during data integrity, this can also be a potential risk. So what are the risks? Risk are centralized storage, then multi-tenancy, then complex hardware software, which can have a risk of catastrophic failure, right? So these are the key risks for securing the cloud storage. So how to enable the protection? So for first one, probably we can go with data privacy or the jurisdiction concerns. For multi-location storage or cross-border issues could be solved by having an very good data privacy policy. And probably depending upon the geographical area, we can also go with the jurisdiction concerns, where you can sue them if it is an cross border access. Then whenever you are opting for a multi tenancy type of data access, then encryption is very very important. So it is widely used for any data which is already stored in your storage or it is in transit. So basically, we have to enforce a very strict access control so that only the intended user will be able to access the data, right? Then offsite backups. So what you can do if there is a catastrophic failure, instead of having a centralized thing is fine, so that you can enable protection, but still we can have an offsite backup by third parties, right? So it can have an additional risk, but contractual confidentiality is one that could be preserved whenever you are going with an offsite backups. Next, how to maximize this cloud efficiency and how can we ensure security and reliability for data which is stored in cloud? So one important thing is we can harness automation so that manual interference is reduced. We can go with advanced networking techniques in order to access the cloud. Then whenever we have any threats, it should have a continuous response, and we should be well aware of what are the cloud operations that are affected. So possibly, so automation and checking the discipline pattern for cloud infrastructure is very very important. Once you build this, you can assign some small team which can manage the large cloud. Okay, because already anyhow we have the automation and standardization process, so we will be able to manage using the small team. Next, coming to cloud network. So this has to offer a better security and reliability than the other available enterprise networks. So basically what we can do is we can have the carrier grade network or advanced protection like DDoS mitigations and VLAN errors can be avoided, so that they have trust in using a particular cloud service. Then one more important thing is continuous learning. Only if we are sensing a particular thing continuously, then we will be able to gauge what is the threat, and depending upon that we can give the response on how to evolve this threat, and how we have to maintain our particular data with the network security consensus, what will enable you to maximize the cloud usage, right? Her cloud efficiency in simpler terms. So if we maximize the cloud efficiency, so in order to maximize that, we have to ensure the security protocols and reliability should be there. So only then more users will be interested in using the cloud services. So how to evaluate our cloud resource? So whenever we are evaluating our cloud resources, first is risk tolerance. So this risk tolerance will depend on the security, how well you understand the security requirements, then how you will access your information, so how valuable your information is, that is important. Next, what we can do is, in the available frameworks, we can do risk analysis. So you can categorize the threat by the type or by the source or the impact that it does. So based upon this categorization, so what you can do is you can check how many times it has occurred, which is frequency. Then what is the uncertainty it has caused by not following the NIST guidelines. So NIST is a company which gives the guidelines for all the security protocols that are on cloud. So comprehensive risk analysis will help you to find out to which threat your particular cloud services is there. Depending upon that, you have to do a contract. Right now, the third thing is how organizational control vary from deployment model. That is, depending upon whether your cloud is private or public cloud, you can offer the organization control, and depending upon that, you can go with deployment. Then information assets. So information assets can be data, or it could be an application, or the entire process itself, right? So it is very difficult to classify or label them. So basically what we will do is, it is difficult to classify asset in this particular thing. So we have an assumption that data and application is available in all of the information that you are storing. Process you can try to gauge, since it is difficult to classify them. Then once you are able to identify the risk, you are able to get the information about the asset, we will go with privacy and confidentiality compliance, where you will not exempt any tenants from compliance obligations. So every tenant should be able to follow the compliance that are given by NIST guidelines, right? Next, data ownership and jurisdiction concerns. So if there are across border data storage issues that arises, the legal or regulatory issue, then you have to identify how to avoid that, or how will you claim the ownership of data if one or more persons are claiming that is their data. Okay, so if there is an threat over there, then that should be handled legally by using the jurisdiction concerns. Then once your data is free from all the computing risk, you have tolerated the data, then you will go with auditing. So this auditing will help you to identify the challenges, because we have used the multi-tenancy here. So you'll be having the shared responsibility model. The shared responsibility model will help you to access the challenges more whenever you're auditing the services. Next, what are the potential emerging threats that are not discovered? So that also you have to do an contract and find out what are the what to say, the evolving risks that are there, and how you will tackle them by continuously monitoring the software stacks that are there in the cloud services. So once you ensure all these risks are tolerated, you can ensure that the cloud is safe, or you have continuously evolving your particular storage in such a way that it will enhance the security standards, be it a security cloud security issues, or if it is an FedRAMP, you will be able to get the safety concerns for the cloud. So, how do we navigate the legal issues? So, compliance is one, protection is one, risk management is one. So, legal challenges and tenant responsibility. So, if you are using an authenticated software, or if you are using a third party data, so how you will ensure the safety of that particular data. So, tenants remain responsible only for the accessing data, but legal compliance and all should be handled or ensured by the providers, right? Then the life cycle and negotiation constraints. So whenever you are signing a contract, it must include diligence, negotiation, then implementation, then how do you terminate this particular thing, then how do you transfer your rights. So it could be the agreements that you click, you can negotiate, you can tailor the contracts depending upon your economic factor, or how much time period you want to use a cloud. Coming to privacy, there are some laws like HIPAA is there, PCI is there, GLBA is there, so which will help you to provide transparency, so your data is secured and it is not used for any other purposes. So data location is one more thing. So if it is a cross border transfers, so how will you handle this contracts or approval is what is important. Coming to risk from secondary data, so if there is a disaster that is happening, so if there is a risk from the provider point of view, that the contractors must limit their unauthorized access, and there should be a disaster recovery plan that can address the failure. Okay, next is breach notification. So if there is a breach that has happened, then it has to be notified, and immediately you should have an response plan that is acting upon, so that most of your data is not lost. Litigation is one more. So if you have a litigation regarding the data accessibility, then you should go ahead with the legal process. Then coming to the guidance for framework or organizational representative, so you should be able to understand the information law that is given by Gartner. So this framework will clearly help you to understand what are the cloud consumer rights. So depending upon that, if a particular thing is not done in a better way, or if it is violated, then you have to use a different deployment model, so that the data or the application ownership will be will not differ across the service models. Okay, so this is regarding the guidance of the framework. So we will stop here. So since it is the entirely theoretical thing, so it will not make any sense if you are moving through many things. So so basically, this first module is a recap of all the thing that you will be studying in the entire course, right? So this was an prelude, right? So depending upon that, we will be again discussing on how to master the complexity or organizational role, how to give the organization role. So once this is done, what we can do is we can go back to our reference textbook and check. There are few architecture diagrams that are there which I'm not able to add in the PPT. Okay, so we will go back and we will discuss those diagrammatical inferences that are there. Okay, so basically it is a theoretical concept. So what everyone should know, whenever we are trying to store data in cloud, how can you ensure security for data is what we will learn in first module. So any doubts? You are able to follow? I hope it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, so let me take the attendance. Yeah, answer to attendance. Ashwini,
Present, ma'am.
Chinmay,
Present, ma'am.
Tanya,
Present, ma'am.
Yoshika,
Present, ma'am.
Meghana,
Present, ma'am.
Nandita,
Present, ma'am.
Praveen,
Present, ma'am.
Reena,
Present, ma'am.
Sabreen,
Present, ma'am.
Sheila, Shilpa, Srinidhi, Saundarya,
Present, ma'am.
Saujanya,
Present, ma'am.
Narahari,
Yes, ma'am.
Surya, Tejaswini,
Present, ma'am.
Triveni,
Present, ma'am.
Vishwas. Okay. So basically, the entire what to say syllabus is theoretical. So it depends upon how nicely you can end up in remembering things. So probably you have to make a long running notes which has the major what to say the headings followed by the subheadings and the terms, crucial terms that has to be there. So you have to refer the textbook. I'll see whether I can give the notes, because here the remembering is too much. Because if you see through the syllabus, the all modules are like you have some 10 to 8 to 10 diagrams followed by the architectures steps, right? So it is entirely theoretical thing. So don't know how far you will be able to recollect and remember. It depends upon your skills, which I'm very weak at. Okay, so what probably I'm doing is I'm going through your textbook. So the entire thing as it is, I'll not be able to do. Again, if I had it, so it will be an copy of your textbook. The same thing I have to add it in a slide. So what I've done is, so I have gone through the slides, through the content. Okay, generated it. Depending upon that, we will be discussing the concepts, and probably as an reference notes, you can refer the textbook itself. Because when I tried through the author slides or say any other resources, it's not available. So that ended up even I am going through the textbook, reading it line by line. So when I felt that probably you should go with an long length notes for this, right? Otherwise, for example, if it's a 10-mark question and if you want to write a 2 page, if you want to fill 2 page, that many terms you should be able to recollect, right? You cannot keep repeating the same thing. So both risk is there. So if you want to avoid from a problematic subject and opted for theoretical subject, then you should ensure that you will learn all the diagrams and also steps and terminologies, right? So from starting itself, you make it a point that you write down a long length notes, or probably if you are getting the recorded session, that is also fine. Yeah, thank you.